Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Disruption Podcast. It's your boy, Anka Garg, with my co-host,
Ludwig Arroyo. What's up, everyone?
Guys, today we have a very special guest. This guy is a true legend in comedy. I don't know if I've told you this, Ludwig, but I don't even know if our guest remembers this, but his son actually used to live with me when I was living in New Brunswick. And I've probably seen this guy do stand-up over 30 times in my life. He is incredible at literally everything that this guy does. Guys, it's my pleasure to introduce you guys to the legend, Vinnie Brand.
Well, that's very nice. I thought some other guest was coming in. I heard the intro. I think it can't be talking about me. I thought it was a surprise.
He'll be here doing the 7 o'clock, the 9 o'clock, and the 11 o'clock show for the podcast. Just tune in, guys. Thanks.
And now all those memories come flooding back, and I regret agreeing to do this. And
I promise your son didn't tell me any stories that you didn't tell me yourself.
Let me tell you, I got some stories. How long did you live with him?
I want to say 11 to 13 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's still in therapy?
I mean, not because of me. We know that much. But,
Did you marry the girl?
I married the girl.
And you're still with her?
Still with her.
How many years you married?
A year.
Oh, you only married 1 year?
Yeah, not even
Barely.
yet. Yeah.
Not even yet.
I brought her to you before I even proposed.
Wow.
Had to make sure she laughs at a comedy show, right?
Yeah.
If she doesn't laugh at a comedy show, then that's not the one.
You gotta laugh at life. Like, really honestly, you should interview a girl and when I say interview a girl, when you date somebody, and this goes for girls too, when you're dating a person, you should put the person into situations that you're gonna experience in life.
Absolutely.
And see how they react.
Yeah.
Wait. What are these situations?
Okay, let me.
Let's give Vinnie Brand's top 3 required situations before you propose to a girl.
Financially poor.
Okay.
You got to go through the hard times.
Wait,
You gotta
pretend?
be poor.
Yeah.
Pretend or arrange?
Huh?
Pretend that you're broke or arrange that you're broke?
You should be able to go through a financial hardship
Yep.
with a certain decorum, right? So if you're dating somebody and you can't go see whatever, Billy Joel, and that person, guy or girl, is having a meltdown, all the bells have to go off.
Yes.
Now, frequently we will say, well, I'll make enough money to bring her to see Billy Joel. And really what we should say is, I got to get out of this relationship as quick as I can.
Yeah.
Because you can't guarantee your financial, right? You can't guarantee that. So you should definitely, without a doubt, be poor. I was poor when I met my second wife. Okay? I was dirt poor.
You were rich on the first wife?
Well, I wasn't poor, but I was in college, so it didn't count.
Got it.
All right, and I can look back and know that there was a financial consideration that wasn't going to work because money was an issue.
Okay.
And money can't be an issue. All right.
Second requirement.
You should definitely go through some type of illness. Now, I don't mean a long-term illness. That's a whole different thing.
We're talking mental health? What are we talking here?
If there's a mental health illness, get out of that relationship as fast as you can. You can't fix that. No, listen, what I mean is an illness. If you have an upset stomach and your girlfriend or boyfriend's like, get away from me.
Yeah.
Get out of that.
Yeah.
Because that's just humanity. That's just what it's gonna happen to you.
You talk about that. I always think about bedside manner. That's a big sign for me.
Yes.
So if you're sick, you got the flu, you're in bed, and the way she treats you in that bedside manner, that's red flags.
Yeah, you're hitting the nail on the head. Because whoever you're gonna marry, that person's gonna be at their worst or see you at your worst.
Yes.
And they need to be there for you.
Yep.
Okay, and the third thing is, you must be able to introduce them to, and you must meet their craziest family member. Because that's the low watermark.
That's their limits, yeah.
Yeah, if you, I think back, but true.
I'm having PTSD. Check,
Yeah.
and check with my wife.
Yes, and you should never, and finally, when you make the decision, if you're a guy or a girl, if someone asks you to marry or you ask someone to marry you and you're on an island in the Pacific and the sun is setting and it's beautiful out. I'm sorry, I got to put my phone on Do Not Disturb, otherwise we're going to be disturbed. If you ask someone to marry you in Maui. Of course they're going to say yes.
Yeah.
They're drinking a Mai Tai. The sun's going down. You got to ask someone to marry you when you're lost in Camden late at night.
Camden.
You got nowhere to go.
I love these.
Okay, so if we were lost in Camden, she'd be yelling at me from the passenger seat.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that was the right time to propose.
Listen, I'm telling you this right now. Lost in Camden is a euphemism for you got to ask at that moment that isn't perfect.
Right.
Because everyone says yes. You scratch off and hit $5 million. You marry me? Goddamn right I will.
Yeah.
Okay? So that's when, we all go through this process and everything smells like roses. Oh, it ain't all roses. No one's life is all roses.
No.
So, I don't know how
So we got a comedian on the podcast, and we're doing relationship advice. I love it. That's a curveball I didn't see coming.
Wait, I guess we should probably tell people at home who don't know about Stress Factory how big of a deal Stress Factory is.
It's the biggest. It's New Jersey, Connecticut, right?
Mm-hmm.
In terms of your reach.
I'm just gonna name drop a little bit, right? You got George Lopez, you got Dave Chappelle, you got Chris Rock, you got every.
Can you name drop for us?
I can tell you, I can name drop because we've
Because
done
this
this
is what we're all
exercise.
about. We're all about name dropping here.
Okay,
This
and
podcast.
and before anyone knew who it was, Ray Romano, no one knew who he was.
Okay.
Yeah, of course, Ray Romano. We had a very young Adam Sandler. Dennis Leary before he did the knocking come through commercial. Chris Rock before he was black. We had so many.
Before he got slapped or before he was black?
Both.
So Chris Rock, Ray Romano, Kevin James, John Leguizamo, Jerry Seinfeld, Norm Macdonald, Kevin Nealon, Wanda Sykes, Kevin Hart.
Everybody.
Everybody.
As the subtitles go, 30 minutes later.
Yeah. Well,
naming
the big ones are, and this is what changed about comedy. The big ones are going to see someone before they broke. See, today, everybody has broken. People are going to see who they know.
Yeah.
Which is really bad for comedy for a lot of reasons. So, we're going to go see Billy Joel, my wife and I, and we have great seats, and that's why she's staying with me. But the point is, the point is that we know every song, and you want to sing those songs because music is communal in that fashion, and comedy is the extreme opposite. The communal part of comedy is discovery, right? So when I set up something, everyone's on the same page, and then I break that thing. That's the communal act of all reaching to this point where, oh God, that's funny.
Yeah.
Now, if you already know the joke, that whole process falls apart. So today, when you go see a comic that you love, whether it's Vinnie Brand or Bill Burr, if you already know what they do, it's difficult, particularly with a guy who has a definitive thing. So Bill Burr is definitively angry.
Yeah.
So now that part of discovery is done. Bill Burr is one of the top greats of all time, but now his anger has to be that much sharper. And of course, in Bill's case, he can make it that sharp.
Yeah. That's why he has that longevity, right?
Yeah. Bill is a legit guy. Meaning, when you see Bill flipping out about butter on the toast, he didn't sit down and go, "What could I be mad about?"
Yeah.
He's legitimately mad about butter on the toast.
Right.
So that's what makes Bill staying power good. Is that Bill is angry about everything.
Right.
If Burr won the lottery, he would have 10 minutes on how much bullshit is involved, and he'd be angry. Bill would not win $100 billion and go, "Oh, life's great, Now I'm not mad." He would be mad. The fucking private plane couldn't take off the fucking fog, whatever. And so, that's what makes him watchable. But if you take a comic who doesn't have the ability to keep that persona or to keep writing new stuff, it becomes old very fast, which is why a comedian's job, there's usually an arc, right? So Kevin Hart went into film and TV and production and a million other things. He's a super talented guy. He's a funny guy. But all those other avenues give him more territory.
Yeah.
More room.
More reach.
You guys are podcasting. It's more room.
Yeah.
Okay. I own a comedy club. It's more room. And so, to me, how we get on the subject? I don't know what the hell.
We were name dropping. We were
Oh
talking
yeah,
about
we're
the
name
different
dropping. So back to that. I would love to see people start going and seeing guys they don't know.
Yeah.
Because that's where I can tell you right now, the first time I saw Ray Romano, I saw him at Catch a Rising Star in Princeton before that club was not, it used to be a big thing. Yeah. He was the middle act for George Wallace.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't know who George Wallace was. I was just going to a comedy show. Now, there were people that knew Wallace there, but nobody knew Ray Romano. And Ray Romano murdered it. And I asked for his card. I just opened the club. And I opened the club. That's a great, interesting story. But he gave me his card to call. Rory Rosegarden was the manager. And I called Rory Rosegarden and said, hey, I want to headline Ray Romano at my club. And they said no 100 times. Because Louis Ferranda, who was at Caroline's, was blocking anyone from working for me. And Rascals was blocking people. Now, Rascals and Caroline's were middling young Ray Romano.
Oh.
And I said to Roy Rosegarden, this guy's a headliner. And Roy goes, well, I know that, but he's not headlining. I'll headline him. And we were in nothing room. And Roy's number was 516-487-0872. I dialed that number so many times, it's committed to my memory because I couldn't get him to do it. And then finally he goes, all right, we'll do it. And then I was dragging people, you got to see this guy, you got to see this guy. Dennis O'Leary, right before he broke. And I was telling people, you got to see this guy.
So we're talking early 80s, right?
Leary was, early to mid 80s.
Yeah.
I was producing a show there. I didn't open the club yet. And so, but again, back to comedy. If you go see Jerry Seinfeld tomorrow, it's amazing. But you already know so much about the act that there's less discovery there.
Yeah.
And comedy is definitely that.
Yeah.
Right? I come on the podcast, I'm going to talk about relationships. Anyone listening, they're either going, "What? I don't want to fucking hear this," or they're going, "Hey, this is interesting."
Yeah, yeah.
Right? And I don't give a shit which it is.
Discovery.
It's discovery.
So, opening up a club is one thing. What are the challenges you guys have as a club competing against being in New Jersey, but competing against the scene in NYC? Right? Because comics come here on the East Coast, it's NYC. You're in New Brunswick and Connecticut. Like, is that a challenge for you to kind of compete and get comics to come down here?
It was for the longest time.
Yeah.
And we did it. But now there are no headline clubs in New York City. Caroline's is gone. Gotham went back to showcase shows. There is no headline club in New York City. So, the Comedy Cellar is a showcase room. Great room. They're all great rooms, but they're not doing... And they're not paying what we're paying. The challenge now is there's so many great cities to go to.
Yeah.
So you can go to Austin, Texas. You can go to, Boston. You can go to Chicago, Denver. Name a city, it's got a great club. And New Brunswick is a little bit of a redhead stepchild. The beauty of New Brunswick is that what we've done with that room, I'll put that room against any room in the country for how we treat entertainers, how we treat the crowd, the energy coming off the crowd. You don't want to get off that stage because that stage, and we were the first ones to do it. I was the first one to say, we're not dropping checks on people. A headliner's working. There's no way in the world I'm going to drop a check on somebody while the headliner's doing his last 15-minute piece. We'll wait 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And everybody, you're in the middle of watching, Lopez, and he's murdering, and then someone taps you, hey, can you pay your bill? And it was all born out of this sense of flipping the room, not being beat for a check, and convenience for the club. Yeah. And the vast majority of clubs still do it, and it sucks, and it's bullshit.
It is.
You don't have to do it. There's a million ways to respect your comic and respect your entertainer and give everyone the full show. And I said right from day one, I'm not doing that. And we never did it. There's a handful of clubs now that don't, but just a handful.
Focusing on the client, focusing on a customer, focusing on a comedian.
Yeah, listen, a comic, I've done enough check spots. Now, I have a healthy disregard for everything that we do. It's the biggest con in the world to go up and make people laugh. If someone gives you money, it's the most ridiculous thing in the world, which is why when I hear comedians talking about how important they are, and I'm going, No, you're the least important part of society. You might be an enjoyable part, but you are truly, potentially the least important part. I'm going to tell you, if the world fell apart tomorrow and we broke into clans for survival,
Apocalypse.
nobody would put in a clan together going, wait a minute, we got a comic here?
No.
Okay, comics and manicurists are the two last professions. Everything else is more important. Everything.
Yeah.
So when you see comics talking about how important they are, or you hear comics being referred to as genius, listen, I've had people say to me, man, I love you. You're really smart. I didn't even graduate college. Like, I'm a con man. I have people that pay me to make them laugh.
Yeah.
And really, if you paid attention, you can walk around and laugh all goddamn day because the world's hysterical.
It is.
The world's hysterical. I'm just pointing out the shit that you're too blind to see because you're worried about buying the new Tesla.
Yeah.
You're caught up.
Yeah.
And I uncatch you. So, that's the challenge, though, is booking now because people have to choose. And really, I think that it's the energy in that room that keeps people coming back. And now, listen, if you're a comic and you have not played our club, you want to play the club.
Yeah.
I think most young guys want to play the club because it's kind of a nice thing to have, right?
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's say you're an up-and-coming comedian and you're getting a little fame on TikTok or Instagram. How do you even get on Stress Factory's card? How does that even happen?
How do we do what?
How does a comedian even get a hold of you and be like, hey, I want to be in
So-
the show?
Back when I was in the city 7 nights a week as a comic, and I knew guys and I saw them and we got them. We had relationships. The newer way is really through TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and all the social medias, Grindr. And and so the social media.
Vinny crushes on that one. Yeah, for sure.
Stuff right there.
But yeah, social media really exposes, right? So you see it. And again now, there's a rub here. And the rub is Seinfeld is a technician. Every pause, every joke, refined, words eliminated.
Yeah.
Leary was a stream of consciousness attack. Bobby Kelly is that. Brian Regan was that extreme ridiculousness of, that minutia and observation wrapped in self-deprecating. Some of the social media guys don't have the same
The technical.
refined
Yeah.
technical chops. Exactly. I say it's kind of like skiing, right? Like I can go through the moguls, but the guy on the chairlift watching me is not going, oh my God, look at that guy. He's going, oh my God,
Yeah.
look at this guy.
Yeah.
And there's a difference, right?
Yeah.
So if you're a really good TikTok or Instagram guy with a big following, you could put people in the room. They won't necessarily understand that what they're seeing isn't as refined as Seinfeld or Gaffigan or Brewer or Leary or and Vinnie Brand twice.
So, if you are an up-and-coming comic, how do you get on stages?
I think it's easier than ever. There's so many little, okay, so in 1985, there was 1 million B rooms. 1 million B rooms. Comedy was in the boom. And so the Little Apple had a stage and, that guy in the corner, and you could get up. And I did some of those gigs. I did some of those hellacious. I did a gig at the Ground Round in Yonkers during a Rangers-Islanders playoff game. Wow. Oh, every TV in the place on the game. It was me, Jim Florentine, and someone else. And it was just, I'll tell you what happened. It packed, and all the games were on these TVs. The Ground Round, for Christ's sake. And Dan Rosenthal was the booker. I'll never forget this. And Jim Florentine goes up, and he's just dying because we're inconvenient in the room. Yeah. And Florentine gets off stage, and they're introducing me, and he goes, you got to go wild. You got to go wild. And I go, I'm going to turn the TVs off. And he goes, do it. So I go up on stage, and I reach up, and I turn the TV off. And the place goes ballistic. And someone turns it back on, and now they're cheering. And I go, no, you're here to see comedy. And I turn it off again. And the place is, fuck you, blah, blah, blah. And so the third time it happened, I turned it off. And this girl, maybe 11 years old, and I'm standing, feet slightly wider than shoulder width apart. And she comes up and she's still a little angel. And she goes, my father told me to give this to you. And she kicked me in the balls.
Oh my God.
And I wasn't ready. Because who the hell thinks that's coming? And she caught both of my boys, unprotected, full on shot.
Oh
and
my God.
I doubled over and the place went ballistic. They're cracking up. This is happening within 5 minutes of me being on stage. And now I am lily white. My balls are in my stomach somewhere. And Dan Rosenthal goes, 45. You got to do 45. And it was just, So now those stages were everywhere.
Yeah.
And then the boom broke. It broke in 1990. I opened, late 90 is when the boom broke. I opened in 91. So the boom had really gone bust, and those rooms kind of dissipated. There was a room in Bernardsville, New Jersey, called Freddy's. Freddy's was one of the first rooms out of the city. They had on their wall Eddie Murphy, Freddie Prinze.
Oh, wow.
They had like the Robin Williams. They had the old school A-listers that went out to Bernardsville, New Jersey to do Freddy's in the basement.
Yeah.
And I did Freddy's at the end. Right before Freddy's closed, we did it. And I remember walking into Freddy's going, holy shit. Like, we're on the stage that. But Freddy's had gone through its cycle, and it was at the end, and there was 25 people there that, 14 of them were getting a divorce, 11 wanted in a bingo somewhere. Yeah. So, they didn't give a shit. And so when those rooms went away, then it became the open mic at Rascals, which is where I began. And now today it's come full circle. There's a lot of shows in a lot of places. So, there's a lot of bullshit shows and you can get up on stage. Yeah. And these quote unquote producers who, listen, a lot of them are I want to be careful how I say it. A lot of them are scam artists in a way because they're getting comics to work for nothing and they're getting paid $7 a head or $10 a head. They put 100 people in the room. They pay out $100. They put $900 in their pocket. They have no insurance. They have no staffing. They have no advertising. They have no nothing. And so those shows, in my estimation, are further watering down what is great comedy. Yeah. But they're giving young comics a place to be. But it's to me, you come into our room, and Jay was there 2 weeks ago. You've been there. Have you been there?
Yeah, twice.
Okay, so when you come in our room, there is no question what we're doing there. There's food, there's beverage, but there's no question what we're doing is special. And we treat it that way. When you go to I did a show in Brooklyn where the whole audience had a stand. And these young kids are like, isn't this so, what's the word I want? Isn't this so contrarian? Isn't it so avant-garde or whatever dynamic they thought was working? And I'm on stage going, this blows. You're uncomfortable. I see people shifting. This guy's back hurts. Yeah. I mean, that's not special. It's something else.
What do you think about the focus now with comedians on crowd work as if it's a new thing, like the Matt Rifes? What are your thoughts on stuff like that?
Listen, whatever someone does, if they're good at it and they're getting laughs, it's good. It's funny, when we started, crowd work was really frowned on. Like, frowned on. And you would walk off stage and did 10 minutes of crowd work.
Yeah.
And now that's all comics post. Because, so there's a dynamic, it'll change. I can tell you that I've always been in and out of the crowd, and I enjoy it. I enjoy drawing people into that moment.
A little too much, to be honest.
Well, all kidding aside, in the beginning, if you went to New York City and you were trying to work at the comic strip, and if you went up and did 6 minutes, 3 minutes of crowd work inside your 10-minute set, Lucian Holt pulled you aside and said, I suppose you don't have any material. And that was devastating to hear that. I saw a piece this morning on Crowdwork. I won't tell you who it was. It was so mediocre. It was so incredibly mediocre, that particular piece. And it had, 110,000 views. And 110,000 people saw it and don't know what even good crowdwork is. But that's AI feeding it out there, right? So there's a lot of factors at work on comedy right now. There always have been, but there's a lot of outside influences right now on what good stand-up is and what it becomes. To me, if Matt Rife made his career in crowd work, he's got material as well. I know that. Mark Normand, Sam Morrell, these guys are prolific crowd work posting. But Sam Morrell and Mark Normand and Matt Rife all have
material.
Tons of it. Yeah. Tons of it. And they're great comics.
Well, let's talk about your favorite topic. You ready for this one?
Yeah, I have a lot of them.
Let's get into cancel culture.
Oh, yeah.
About what?
Cancel culture?
Yeah.
I know you have some opinions on sensitivities, how people react in crowds, and like, you're a comedian, right? You should be able to say whatever you want to say.
This is a really great topic, right? And let's not forget that this Thursday, Friday, Saturday, you can come see me at the Stress Factory in New Brunswick. But here's my take on it. On the side of the masses, anti-comedian, you can say whatever you want. No one has to pay you to say it. So if you're a comic that gets canceled because you said something that was indeed hateful or came off wrong or whatever, you played in that playground. I'm not saying you should get canceled, but you have to understand the difference between freedom of speech and commerce. There's a big difference. I can say whatever I want on this podcast, and someone watching could say, I'm not going to go. And that's not a problem. The problem is I say something, and someone else goes, we got to go arrest Vinnie. He said this. Let's go arrest him. That's where I draw the line. Now, for comics, my test, not yours, not Ricky Gervais's, is if you can say it without malice, and it's funny, and people laugh, you've passed the test. Gervais says things. He says them without malice. They're observations. They're his viewpoints. They're largely hysterical. What's not to laugh at? Bill Maher, 6 years ago, was so left-wing, I didn't like his politics, but he made me laugh. So I never once said, get this asshole off the air.
Right.
It didn't matter that his politics were so left. Now his politics have moderated.
Yep.
He's, a little bit more in the middle, and he's still very funny. So cancel culture works both ways. And if someone makes a joke, let's use a common word that was used all the time when I was young and had nothing to do with someone's sexuality. Faggot. Now look, if I use that word in a hateful manner and direct it at the gay community in a hateful manner, I have to be ready for the financial considerations that are going to occur. Yeah. Now, if I observe that when I was a kid, everyone called me a faggot, which they did, everybody, and no one referred to me as a faggot in terms of my sexuality. Now, I use that joke on stage, and the joke works, and gay people don't mind the joke because I turn the joke. I'm not going to do it now, but I turn the joke and make it acceptable. So I'm willing to play in that playground. Is there someone gay somewhere that might go, that word? Yes, there might be. Yeah. There are certain words I think have no acceptable playground. The N-word is the N-word. Mm-hmm. There's very few other meanings for the word. No one ever used it. They used that word when I was a kid, and it did not mean that you couldn't, as Jim Burr says, hit a kickball.
Right,
right.
right.
Okay, it meant that.
Yeah.
It meant what it always meant.
Yeah.
So there are two words that have a playground that is really limited. You can never use the N word and the C word. Very tough. You can only use the C word if you've been divorced. And then
I was like, wait, what C word? Oh, that C word. Okay.
It's interesting. Go ahead.
But so when you talk about cancel culture, let's talk about what the guy's intent on stage was. Now listen, I like the guy, but Nick DiPaolo has gone down some rabbit holes here. Okay, he's on the other side and he plays in that playground, and his core audience now is in that playground, and there's money to be made in that playground. Yeah. But don't expect to see Nick DiPaolo at the big, Catholic bingo hall doing a show.
Or the award shows.
What's that?
Or the award shows, like Oscars or something.
Have you listened to Nick recently?
No. Is he even on places
Nick,
anymore?
Listen, Nick he's in his playground. And Nick will likely never get an industry job. And Nick might, I don't know, Nick and I are friends, but it's been an odd friendship for a long time. He's another angry guy. And Nick, if you're listening, call me. But, Nick might say, cancel culture. Nick was never canceled. Nick chose to play in that playground, and no one's ever infringed on his right to speak. So there's no freedom of speech issue largely.
Yeah.
People bastardize that phrase because they want to make money and say what they want to say. Yeah. And that's just not the way it works.
I always find it interesting, the comedians there's certain comedians like yourself, I think, that have these clean acts that are almost cancel proof, right? Because back in the day, it used to be Bill Cosby, right? He had a super clean set.
Yeah.
Now it's like the Jerry Seinfeld. And then there's the dark, like the Jeselniks and, who have this. But it's always interesting to see this dichotomy between those types of comedians that never have to worry about it because their sets are so funny, but still clean.
Yeah, and Cosby got canceled for the raping.
That wasn't clean.
So this show's called The Disruption Podcast, right? Yeah. And when we talk about comedy, we talk about owning a club, some of the most common disruptions are hecklers.
It's what?
Heckling, when people from the crowd say all this stuff. And you handled it like a pro every time I've ever seen someone try and heckle you. But where does that come from? For
what
you,
part
for
of
the
it?
Comedian, all of it. What makes someone think that they have the right to stop a show and make some loud comment other than alcohol?
Alcohol,
right?
Yeah.
I do think that the audience has always had that ability to call out. Comedy is, it's inclusive. We're all in the room. We're all supposed to be on this page. And so if you find yourself for a minute off the page, you feel like, well, I'm included. I can talk, right? So I understand how someone thinks that way. There's very few times I've been heckled where, first of all, I get away with a lot because there's a pretty distinct lack of malice in what I say.
Yeah.
Right? It's pretty easy to see that I'm in on the joke. And I think the least of myself of anybody in the room in a healthy way. Right? I'm not some self-deprecating guy. I know that what I do is what I do, but I also am not affected with the disease of importance. Right? It doesn't matter. If I had 20 HBO specials tomorrow, which I will not have, there would be no...
HBO, call us.
Yeah. No. But there would be no disease of importance because I don't think along those lines. I don't think what we do is important at that other level. I talked about it earlier tonight. Comics talk about, we're important. No. There's a guy somewhere in a lab right now going, if I could just get this chromosome to flip, I can cure cancer. Yeah. He's more important than I am, even if he never gets the chromosome to flip.
Yeah.
Even if I get a laugh every time, his work is more important than my work. And it's more important than Seinfeld's work. It's more important than all of it. So the disease of importance makes me kind of, since I don't have that, it's hard to heckle me because the audience almost inherently knows this guy's a goof.
Yeah.
No one ever heckles a little crippled kid. Why don't you walk? No one does that because he's a little cripple kid. And me, I'm a little cripple kid on stage. Now, I got heckled one time. It was the funniest heckle ever in retrospect. It was right after Trump won the first election. And I said, finally, we have a hot first lady. And a guy in the back goes, fuck you! Fuck you! How fucking dare you! And I thought he was a pro-Trump guy. And I look, and it's this big black dude. And I go, what the fuck are you talking about? And he goes, Michelle Obama's hot! And I go, what? And he goes, Michelle Obama's hot! And I go, first of all, she's not. Okay? Like, not in the context that I used it. Michelle Obama's a beautiful woman, or if you're a conspiracy guy, beautiful man, whichever she is. But I was using hot in a almost backdoor kind of. Melania Trump is a supermodel, for Christ's sake.
For sure.
And so now afterward, the guy apologized to me. And he goes, I'm sorry, because I thought you were saying Michelle Obama isn't beautiful. And I go, but even if I thought that, like, that's not a heckle point. Like, I don't have to have your proclivities. Okay?
Yeah, right.
I like a bony butt. Fuck you! I like a big fat ass motherfucker. Like, I don't have to share your.
Number 4 on Vinnie Brand's list of things that your wife has to have.
That's funny because I've seen some of your stuff online because I follow you. I think you forced us to follow you. Is that part? That's part of your set, right? Like you'll give away stuff, but you have to follow you. So I've been following you since.
I don't think we use the word force.
I was handcuffed.
This is why you've never been getting the thing because.
But one of the things you do so that you heckle the people coming in.
Yes.
Which is awesome. I think that's great content.
Thanks,
first
man.
of all. But it's super hilarious. Like one of the ones I saw was like 8 guys are coming in. You're like, is 8 men here? Like where are the women? Like, so you do a real good job of heckling. Have you ever gotten in trouble in that sense? Like saying something to like people walking in and it's off-color joke. Maybe it's about them being gay or something like that.
So just recently.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I thought a woman was going to punch me in the mouth because there was 2 girls came in. And they didn't have a guy. And I put this up. It didn't really get the traction I thought it would get because of the mistake I made. And it was 2 young girls. And I said, you don't have a guy. And they go, no. And I go, do you want a guy? Now, right behind them was a man with his wife. And I said to the guy, sir, I can upgrade you if you'd like. That was because that woman.
Oh, man.
How you calling an upgrade?
Yeah.
And so I didn't actually mean it that way in that moment, but as soon as I said it, I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
And there was another time on stage. It was a predominantly black audience. And a guy I know who plays for the Harlem Wizards.
Okay.
He's a basketball player. And he's a really great guy. His name is Kyle. And he's in with this girl. Now, I met Kyle at a Wizards game. They're like the Globetrotters.
Yep.
And there was a girl behind me with a young baby. And we started talking to the girl. And she goes, oh, my boyfriend Kyle's on the team. So the baby was so cute. And we're holding the baby. We're talking to her. And after we meet Kyle, and so I invite Kyle in to the show. And now they're sitting in the front row, Kyle and his girl. And they're a black couple, predominantly black audience. I'm a decidedly white male on stage. And I go, oh, this couple has the cutest baby. I was going to buy the baby. and when the words came out of my mouth, I think everyone in the room, me included, went, oh, wait, that sounded really bad. Yeah. And so I fluff over the moment, and I get through the moment. And afterward, I'm talking to a bunch of people. All these customers are all black. And I said this. And they go, oh, we didn't hear it that way at all. Oh, it was in my head.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, it was in my head.
Our heads too, by the way.
Yeah.
Our heads as well.
Can I tell you something? There's no other way to hear it from me. Like, a white man saying, oh, I'll just buy that with a black baby. That'd be, good for the plantation. And I mean, it was a very, and obviously, I don't even have a plantation. And so, but it's so those are the moments where something comes out of your mouth. Years ago, I was on stage and I was doing a show, and there was 8 couples right under the stage. I was in New York, and I just went to the crowd for a second. Oh, there's a nice bunch of couples, and this woman in the front goes, "I'm not with him." It's like, "Oh, you guys aren't married?" She goes, "No." She goes, "He's my husband's surgeon." So I go, "Oh, does your husband know?" And she goes, "Well, he passed away." So I go, "Oh." I go, and now the whole room is very uptight. And I said, "Is that your husband's surgeon?" She goes, "Yes, he died while in surgery." And I turn to the guy and go, "That's how you made it up to her?" "Come on, honey, I'll bring you to a comedy show. Sorry about Bob." And it was a very fine line. And the woman laughed. And afterwards, she came up to me and she gave me a big hug. And she said, "That line is the first time I've laughed since I lost my husband." And that made me feel great. But again, how do you get away with that line? Because everyone knows I don't mean anything by that.
Yeah.
So it's just a tough moment, and you got to do it. There's been a couple tough moments. Some you have to walk away from. Meaning, on stage there is no out. I was on stage at the club, and in the very beginning of a show, a couple up front, and it was Mother's Day weekend, and I said, "Do you have any children?" And she said, "Well, my child died last year." And you're like, and they're young, so you know the baby's young.
Yeah.
That's when you go, "Okay, let me retreat."
Yeah.
Because in that moment, there's nothing funny. So that's the best place I get. Are we on time? I see you looking at the watch.
No, we're just making sure that these cameras haven't overloaded from all of this humor.
You got me cracked up on Celsius here. It's going to be a couple hours.
It was that or cocaine. We had to choose one or the other. Thanks to Celsius, by the way, for sending us a whole bunch of cases of product. We appreciate you guys.
It's the best.
I mean, you can't just ask for cases of cocaine to get.
You know who loves Celsius?
Who?
Blake Corum.
Okay.
Blake Corum is one of their spokesmen. You know who Blake Corum is, right?
I don't.
I hate you. You don't know who Blake Corum is?
Blake Corum, no.
Do you guys?
Who the fuck is Blake Corum?
Are you fucking kidding me?
Is he a comedian?
Blake Corum. He's Googling it. Blake Corum is the most successful running back for the University of Michigan in Michigan history.
I'm thinking of a comedian. I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I thought it was gonna be like a businessman or like.
Oh, he's all of those things, but he's not a comedian.
What year are we talking here?
He just graduated. He just got drafted.
So
He's going to Los Angeles.
Okay. So I missed the draft.
Boo.
Yeah.
Los Angeles.
He's going to be an impact player.
Oh, for sure.
You know, it's funny that the draft they don't draft running backs anymore.
No.
And they do, but later in the game. And you think back on the great running backs. Franco Harris. Watching Franco Harris run people over.
Who's Franco Harris? Who's Franco Harris?
Jerome Bettis, O.J. Simpson, all the great running back / murderers. And,
Marcus Allen. Yeah.
This draft, 5 or 6 quarterbacks went in the first round.
yes.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like a switch, like you said.
Yeah, a lot of quarterbacks. J.J. McCarthy is the guy we'll watch from Michigan, went to Minnesota. Yeah, it's great. I could tell from the podcast you guys don't watch a lot of
No.
football. Maybe we could talk cricket later.
I've kind of fallen off on the college football, but I'm still we still watch football. We're still football fans here.
What do you watch? Who do you watch?
I'm a Raiders fan. He's
Okay.
a Giants fan.
So I enjoy watching football, and he just miseries through it.
Are you Pakistani or Indian?
Indian.
Yeah.
we won the cricket World Cup. Okay, it's all good.
I'm going to my first cricket match in Australia.
Do you need a translator? You gonna be okay?
I can tell you they go on forever. The game goes on forever.
Is this before or after the Billy Joel concert?
After what?
The Billy Joel concert.
We're doing Billy Joel on the 9th. I do shows on the 19th. I get on plane the 20th. I'll be in Australia on the 22nd. I come home early June, and then I have a string of dates that I'm doing.
Wow.
And on the 21st, Stress Factory gets sold.
Yeah. Yes. Are you a comic too? No.
I mean, not yet.
Do you
But
want to do it?
James and I could do a set together.
Oh yeah, well, I'm going to be hosting shows there.
Yes, you are. And by the way, I'll tell you, like, I don't know if you do crack or cocaine or anything, but Jay is definitely
On something.
He's on something. It's on something. He calls me at 9 o'clock at night. I go, Jay, I could be in the middle of heart surgery. And Jay goes, just one thing.
I do that to him. I do that to him too.
It's great. It's great.
For those of you guys who don't know, James Sorge, a.k.a. J-Rock, is not part of the AKG team.
Yeah.
And he might even be opening up at Stress Factory in the coming weeks.
He's going to. He's going to do some shows with us.
Yeah.
I'm anxious to see what he does because he's a fun guy, full of energy. How long have you been doing stand-up?
I mean, on and off for probably like 10, 12 years, but more off than on.
Right.
You know, once you get up there, you just...
How old are you?
42.
42, because there's no way in the world you're not dying that rug. That is definitely died.
No, it's not. I swear to God.
Jay,
It's not died. I swear to look, it is not died. You know what? My wife asked me the same thing too, and she lives with me. But no, it's not died. This is my natural hair.
It's
my
great.
grandmother died at 99 and was salt and pepper like Encore.
Yeah, listen, I do everything to look good. Like, I do everything. I have ass implants.
Because it doesn't look like you did.
Huh?
You didn't do
ass
any of that
implants.
today, did you?
No.
Yeah.
But I can tell you that I'm doing everything to look good and live for a long time. Like, that's what I eat right. I take a ton of vitamins. If I see it on TikTok, I fucking give it a whirl. Whatever it is. I'm doing...
Thank you for your business.
what
We
that-
appreciate you. At
I'm
AKG
about to try
Creative.
that Shonlegit, whatever that is. Do you know that? Have you seen the ads for that?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm going to give that a shot.
Yeah.
Fucking hymns, every fucking
You know
thing.
what works? You know what works? Viagra. It keeps the blood flowing. So you should.
Well,
try-
see, now, I don't want to do Viagra because people die from that. I like to get the blood flowing, like legitimately get your blood flowing. I like that little crystal you put in your drink. I can't think of the name of it, but I literally am on a live long health kick, right? Like, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs, I eat right, I do everything to try to live long because I just got my shit together and I don't want to die now.
How old are you, Vinny?
61. I'll be 62 in 8 weeks.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah, but I can tell you, I can look around this room, I can out push up all of you, I can outrun all of you. There's not a fucking one of you here in this room that's in better physical condition. Perhaps the young buck over there, 22 years old. How old are you?
33.
33,
He's
yeah.
82. His wife just had a
Well,
baby.
I can tell you, I can out push up him for sure. He's got no muscle mass at all. No, I'm not even trying to be rude. I'm just saying that at that age, it's
All right.
repulsive.
How many push-ups can
Vinny-
you do right now? I want you to
Vinny,
drop right there.
Vinny, there is no chance in hell you could outpush it, man.
How many push-ups
Come
can you
on.
I mean, 55, 60
Nah.
right now, no problem.
Straight?
do? Okay, how many sets?
I mean, I've done days where I do 500 in
Okay,
one sitting.
so right now, I haven't done push-ups now in 8 weeks. My shoulder's fucked up. But I'll go back onto my regimen. I will do 300 every single night, minimum, and frequently 500 every night. I will fucking crush you.
We're not even talking about every night. We're talking about right now. No prep time. This is a challenge.
Let's go.
Okay,
We'll
wait.
slide it through.
Let's finish the podcast, and then we'll do it, and we'll report back. Okay? But I really do have a shoulder injury right now.
Please follow Vinnie Brand on Instagram if you want to see the results of this push-up contest.
Do you want to hear a good push-up story contest? Keith Robbins and I were at the Comedy Cellar one night.
Oh, he's great.
And Mike Vecchione was not past there yet. And Vecchione's a great comic. I love Vecchione. By the way, if you could turn the heat up in here a little bit, because one of my balls is not sticking to my leg yet. So
We do have studio lights in
it's
here.
so
right? You know
goddamn
what just
hot
happened.
here.
You're a stage comedian. You're used to the lights.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hot though.
This is next level.
We're in the cellar, and the cellar is the ultimate high school room. You got to be passed. It's a lot of clicks, and it's a pain in the ass. So Vecchione's hanging out in the cellar. He's trying to get past there, and Keith Robbins and I are upstairs, and Vecchione comes in, and I go, "How many push-ups can you do?" And Vecchione's in good shape, and he goes, "I don't know. I could do 100." So I go, "I bet I could do more push-ups than you." And Vecchione's like, I don't think so. I do a lot of push-ups. I'm in good shape. So Vecchione just trying to fit in. And so Keith Robinson and I go, we'll do it right now. And Mike's like, I don't think we should do it here. And I go, no, we'll fucking do it right now. Vinny will fucking crush you. And Vecchione starts doing push-ups, and we start counting. 1, 2, 3. We get to 10, and Keith Robinson goes like this. And we go, keep going, Mike. And he's just counting. And he's doing push-ups, and we leave. We leave. And the owner, Noam, was walking in while he's on like 32. And Keith goes, hey, Noam. And we go, and we leave. And Vicki calls us, and he goes, yeah, that wasn't right. Yeah, because I got up, and I was doing push-ups all by myself in the middle of the room. And fucking Noam, what are you doing? Who are you? And now he's past there, so it's okay.
So,
That's
I mean, you've had a lot of greats at your club.
A lot of what?
Greats that have come by your club. Are there any amazing stories that like you don't get to talk about that often?
I mean, listen, there's so many stories. And, you know, like some of them are really sad. Like the Geraldo story is sad and it's interesting and it's tragic and it's also just a little fascinating because Geraldo was one of my favorite comics of all time. And if you never saw him live, you got robbed. And so Geraldo was coming in for that, what ended up being his last weekend. And he had broken up with his girlfriend. He had already been divorced. And he had a girlfriend. She looked a lot like Angelina Jolie. And so he came in on Thursday night, packed houses. And this was the first weekend that he sold out everything. So he was right at that moment where it's going to take off, really take off. And so he goes, my girlfriend and I broke up because, you know, she can't take my bullshit, yada, yada, yada. He does Thursday night and he murders. He comes in Friday and he goes, my girlfriend might come see me. First show, he murders. Second show, right before he gets on, I guess she's not coming. He's on stage 5 minutes and she walks in. And she walks across the bar, the floor, and he sees her. And on stage, I remember looking at her and then looking at Geraldo and watching his face change. And he annihilated. It is one of the top 3 sets I've ever seen at the club. Wow. And he murders. And he gets off stage, and there are these 2 people that used to come to the club all the time. They'd come see me in the cellar, and they came to see Geraldo a lot. They came to see a couple of guys a lot. And they were always trouble, but they never offered me drugs. I was never that guy. So they came and they go, hey, we want to go see Greg, and we let him in the green room. And so it's Greg, his girlfriend, and this couple. And now it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, and Greg had said to me, we're going to smoke in the green room. Is that okay? Cigarettes. I go, yeah, it's fine. So now, an hour later, I'm here laughing from the green room, and I knock on the door. Come on, man, let's wrap it up. And he opens the door just a little bit and sticks his face out like The Shining. And he goes, you don't want any part of what's in here. And he slams the door. An hour later, I go, come on, Greg, let's go. And he comes out of the green room, and he's definitely wired up, tuned up. And the next morning, he's supposed to go to Randall's Island and do a show for a recovery group. Now, he comes out of the green room, he's definitely on something. And he asked me to get him back to the hotel, which is a block away. So we get out, and I drive him down to the hotel, and he's all over the map. And his girlfriend's mad. And he says to me, did you record that set? And I go, no, we don't record unless people ask us to record. And he goes, I think that's the greatest set I've ever had. And it was. It was a special set. It was just special. The next morning, I get up at 9:30, and I start texting him to make sure he's up. And he texts back, I blew it with my girlfriend. She left. I go, are you going to your Randall's Island show? He texts back, no, I can't. The irony of doing a recovery show after what I did last night is too much for me to bear. And then he went on to text me. I did a small piece in front of him about teachers. He was very complimentary about my set because I also killed. I mean, I murdered. And so he goes, I'm going to try and get a nap later. Later that day, first show, they call me up and they go, hey, Geraldo's not here. I was in the office, actually. And they knock on the door. Geraldo's not here. They can't wake him up in the hotel room. And he never woke up. He woke up, but he was, or I shouldn't say he woke up. He never regained consciousness. Wow. He lived until that following Thursday. They pulled the plug and he passed away. But the irony of all of it, of him breaking up with the girlfriend over drugs, doing a show that was for recovery and not being able to go to it because of his own mindset about it, and him acknowledging that it was his greatest set ever, and then passing away. It has a tragic Shakespearean element to it.
Yeah.
Because it was just that set. And I do remember, and there are people that recorded small pieces. We told them to put their phones away, but people have small pieces of it. It was a forceful performance.
Greg Giraldo is one of the funniest comedians. His roasting, like those clips on YouTube, I watch them repeatedly. He's awesome. You know who else I've seen at your club? Damon Wayans Jr. That's who I've been. I've actually went twice to your club to see him.
He's great.
He's awesome.
He's great. Damon Jr. is great, and Damon Sr. is great. And they are two of the nicest human beings in the business, down to earth. Damon and I, Sr., are the same age. We cannot afford the same country club, but we're the same age. And, but comes in the green room, he's just a dude. We talk parenting. We talk about our children. And, it's funny because we're the same age, our kids are the same age. He's just a tremendous guy. I'll tell you another really interesting story if you want. So Patrice O'Neill, his last time at the club. Do we have to go? Are you
No, keep going.
I'm having fun. I mean,
We're good.
at what point do I get paid? So,
Are you gonna have to wait?
by the
for
way,
that?
I don't know how your other podcasts are. Is this interesting so far?
Yeah,
Is
this
it good?
is the
This is going
most.
great. You haven't seen the checks come out yet, so you're okay.
Okay. Well, you never know if you're a good podcast guest. I just know I'm entertaining myself. So,
You're the worst. We're never calling you back.
Can you be back here next week?
final appearance.
Yeah.
So, Patrice comes in, does the room, and we had a running letterboard sign, and he killed too. He always killed. And the running letterboard sign said Patrice O'Neill, September, and the dates. And it's at the front of the club. And after his weekend, we went to change the sign, and we couldn't change it. It wouldn't change, the computer. So we called the sign company. The guy comes out and goes, I don't know what's wrong with the sign. He goes, I can't get it fixed. It won't work. Patrice had a stroke 5 weeks later. The sign, the guy came out, he could never fix it. We just turned it around. It still reads Patrice O'Neill. It was his last headline weekend.
Oh wow.
Fun little ghost story.
I got the chills.
Wow.
When you said that.
Patrice
another
had
one.
me laughing. He was just, we ended up being good friends. And when I met him, because he's Patrice, he busted my balls mercilessly. It was Keith Robinson introduced us at Stand Up New York. And he's standing there 6'5", just shitting all over me. And it was funny, and then it wasn't funny, and then it really wasn't funny. And I'm looking at him, and I remember thinking, okay, start the fight with a punch to the throat, because he's big. I swear to God. I looked at him and said, you got to hit him in the throat, because he's huge. And you got to get the wind out of him, because he's going to kill you otherwise. And Keith Robinson saw me getting angry and said to Patrice, hey, Patrice, leave him alone now. Vinnie, calm down now. And Patrice, he's going to punch you. And Patrice goes, oh, white dude going to punch me. And Keith's like, oh, come on, it's all good, guys. I hated him with a passion. And then we became friends. He was a great guy, funny.
I have a question because last time I saw you in New Brunswick, you said that every comedian has come across that stage, but there was only two that you haven't had at the club. And I think you said one of them was Cat. But who was the other one?
You got to guess. Because he worked with me, but not at the club. Great guy. One of the greats.
Is he alive?
Oh, yeah. He's
still-
alive, and he's prominent, and someday I still hope to get him.
Eddie?
Nah.
Eddie Murphy?
Yeah.
Eddie has threatened to do the club, but he was done doing. No, what I mean is, we when Charlie was doing it, we would talk to their cousin, and he'd say, "Hey, Eddie wants to come through," and I'd say, "You can tell Eddie Murphy anytime." Eddie has not done stand up that I'm aware of anywhere, and I think it's because if he came back, he's now, how do you say, anachronistic, right? His material is no longer right. Because Eddie in today's world would be considered canceled out of the box.
Yeah.
Right. But Eddie's humor was not without malice when he did it. But it was of its time.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it wasn't really without malice. I mean, you can't say it was. Cat is one.
Sebastian?
No, he's done it.
You said Chappelle, right?
Chappelle, the guy.
Chappelle?
Never did the Stress Factory proper.
Wow.
Not the Stress Factory proper. Everyone, it's been a timing thing more than anything else. Don't forget, Chappelle hit and disappeared.
Yeah.
And when he came back enormously large. And then he did something interesting. He said, I'm going to set up in my backyard and do it.
Yeah.
And so...
Oh, Nebraska, right? He lives in Ohio? That's it?
It's in Ohio. And it's interesting because as a comedy club owner, I have always suffered a certain degree of ridicule from my peer group. Because you're a fucking club owner. And now Chappelle and Joe Rogan, both of whom are great comics, also own venues. But they get a pass because every comic has to suck their dick.
Yeah.
But listen, not every comic owns the venue, the parking lot, the restaurant next to it. I mean, you're like taking over a whole area of New Brunswick.
I have.
And I just remember thinking, this smart motherfucker turned this parking lot into a second club.
Yep.
I'm like, this is amazing. I mean, first of all, thank you for getting me through COVID. Because if you didn't have those shows, I would have gone stir crazy at the crib. I mean, honestly, me and Leron, I don't know if you know my buddy Leron. I think he prints some of your menus sometimes.
They did what?
Leron Binstock on Point Printing.
Oh, the guy in Point Pleasant?
Yeah.
That's a great story, too.
So we came by multiple times just to get out of the house.
Yeah. Thank you.
I mean, you honestly... You made a huge difference in a lot of people's lives during that time by opening that.
You know, that's nice. I love what we do. I think there were times when we mattered some, but not mattered the way a nurse in the ER was mattering, who was going into work. And, you know, now I want to say just really quick before you go into that, because I'll tell you about the tent. But I think the guy that I have and I haven't been there yet. Rogan loves stand-up and loves comics. And no one has done more than Rogan for comics, right? His room is set up for it. We did the same thing, but I don't have the street cred that Joe Rogan has.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I think Rogan has done, and I've heard the room is amazing, and it's for comics. Now, the tent, at the very beginning of the COVID, and they shut everything down, I was on the roof of the building in New Brunswick that they were dedicating a new building, and they wanted us to do shows in the theater there. And that day, Governor Murphy had a press conference about what we now know was the beginning of the pandemic. And we're up on this roof, and we're all standing there, and Murphy goes, we're going to take 2 weeks to flatten the curve. And that came out after he said, it's dangerous, it's super virulent, we don't know anything about it. And I went home and said to my wife, this is going to be
a while.
I said, the lying has begun. And my wife and everyone was like, no. I'm like, I'm telling you right now. Now my wife sat down and we talked to the Vicki. How can you tell me in one breath that you know anything about it, but it's super deadly and super virulent, and the very next breath tell me,
2 weeks.
but in 2 weeks we got it under control.
Yeah.
Those two comments, one doesn't work against the other. Yeah. Now, we had a big conference call with all these club owners and producers that were on a Zoom call. I remember I didn't know what Zoom was. I don't think anyone did. And I'm like, what is this? And we're on this call, and I'm listening to them on. They're going, well, we'll be open in June. We'll be open May 15th. The call was in maybe mid-April. And they're all making predictions. And everyone talks, and I'm like the little guy there. And I go, hey, guys, you all know me. I feel like Quint from Jaws. You all know me. I go, and I don't mean to be a pessimist. I go, but I don't know what you guys are watching, but I don't think we're going to be open for a year or longer. Yeah. They are lying to us every day. And everyone's like, no. And I said, listen, guys, I'm gonna do something about this. I hung up the phone. Now my wife and I were sitting together, and we're in the basement of our house. And she looked a little frightened for just a second. And she goes, well, what are we gonna do? And I said, Vicki, we've been poor before, and we were. I met my wife. I lived in a boarding house. I mean, I had nothing when I met my wife, which is back to what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I had nothing when I met my wife, and she still dated me. And I said, listen, we've been poor before. I'm not afraid of this at all. I said, but I'm not going to lay down. I'm not doing what they tell me to do. Mm-hmm. And we immediately said, let's build an outdoor space. and we built the outdoor space, and there was a lot of roadblocks, a lot of them. And we just kept saying, no, we're doing it. Now, in June, we opened up outside. And we are, to the best of my knowledge, the only club in the world that operated from June of 20 straight through. Real shows, real people, and we did it in the dead of winter. We did it in snowstorms. We did it in rainstorms. I did it when the governor was telling people, if you're closer than 6 feet on line, we'll close the place down. I had a New York City cop threaten to punch me in the face because I told him he had to put his mask on. We did it in the face of a lot of adversity. During the snowstorms, my manager, Derek, and I, 27 hours that one snowstorm went. We had to stay on the tent, pulling the snow off the tent. Otherwise, it collapsed. And it was out of necessity, right? Like it was, I have to feed children and live my life. And there was a lot of things that we look back on now. And when people hear me talk, people from the left will accuse me of being something on the right. And I tell them that has nothing to do with that. But all along, we listened to a fanciful, elaborate lie, right down to 6 feet makes you safe. Now, how the hell did you come up with 6 feet by June? Now, if you go back and you watch the tape, it's like watching a bad call in a sporting. Look at the fucking tape. Look what they did, and dots on the floor, and we all stood on them. We were just standing on a dot. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have done something. I'm saying that the information was given to us as information, and it wasn't. What they should have said is, look, guys, we're going to try 6 feet. Our best guess is at 6 feet, you're safe. There were certain things we did that were just dumb. When we closed the outside parks, COVID spiked immediately. They won't tell you that, but you can go and you can look at the timeline. Yeah. You can just look it up. It spiked. Now, why did it spike? Because people are not going to not get together. So when you close the parks, let's get together and we'll do a podcast in their room. We'll all be inside. They closed restaurants, so people got together in homes, 8-foot ceilings, no windows, one air conditioner, versus a restaurant, 12-foot ceilings, open windows. What do you think might be safer? So we knew right away going into it, or I knew right away, and I will tell you too, I don't think we have a plan for the next pandemic. No. We don't.
But we do have a tent. But we do have a tent.
And you know what? And I think, I know you said that you weren't as important as the nurses in the emergency rooms and the people that were really
we're going to argue with that one.
I think that there was, obviously that's an important thing, but what you did, making people laugh, making people not go stir crazy with their mental health is just as important as that nurse that was putting a needle in somebody's arm to save their life.
That's very sweet.
It's a different type of importance, of course.
1,000%.
But people needed to laugh.
And we still do. We still do.
Well, I could say this. You're all checking watches. Fuck you guys. I did not come here to be on a clock.
I'm looking at you, Vinny.
Come here to
I'm looking at the old white dude.
Check the watch.
I'm looking at the old white dude. No one's looking at a watch. Don't worry.
We get messages on these things too, man.
I'm only about to. I will say that at the beginning, the first thing we did shows inside the club, and you weren't allowed to have people. So we set the cameras up, and we let people sit behind them. But it was smart. We kept them pretty sparse, but people wanted to be out. And then once the tent got opened, we ran 7 nights a week, 2 shows a night. We had, on a given week, any week had a minimum of 2,200 people come through. Because it was 7 nights a week. Chelsea Hanger did shows on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. 6 shows, sold out everything.
You were the only thing open. You were the only thing
open. I'm proud because we ran that whole time, and 3 of the variants were developed right at the Stress Factory.
That's great.
Man. We can't confirm nor deny the truth behind any of these statements.
It's funny. I can see them. They're looking at each other. Do you want to tell him it's over? He's going to shit all over it, whichever one says it.
Who were the biggest comics that came through at that time?
Say it again.
Who were some of the big comics that came through at that time to perform in the tent?
Okay, so during COVID, I think in the tent, Brewer, Chelsea Handler. Did Lopez do the tent? I don't think Lopez did the tent. God Almighty, Brian Regan, Chelsea Handler, Jim Brewer, God, Attell.
Anyone who wanted to check.
Anyone, I gotta tell you, the best part about it was, really honestly, is you watching people come in and go, oh, yeah. Now, again, I have a healthy disregard, in a sense, right, for what we do. Meaning, I know it's important at some level, but we're not saving lives. But maybe we're giving people a reason not to go home and, kick the dog through the hedge. And, but I do know that people would come up to us afterward and go, "Man, thank you. I had to get out," and I had to get out. I remember there was this one trail, the Hudson Trail. It runs from like Matawan to Sandy Hook, and we would go to that trail and walk. And when they closed the outside parks, the Hudson Trail is actually considered a road. They couldn't close it. Now, we would go to the Hudson Trail initially, and there'd be nobody on it. We'd see a couple people here and there. When they closed all the outside parks, word went out right away, well, they can't close the Hudson Trail. And the Hudson Trail became the subway at rush hour. And I remember going, how do they think this is better? I'm going to go, excuse me. And so, we joked about stuff like that. And I do think it was a hard time to be a governor, but I think that all the state did something wrong.
The government shut down the manicurist, but they couldn't shut down Vinnie Brand.
That's right.
Dude, Vinnie, thank you so much for coming on the
Thank you
show.
very much.
I mean, we had a lot of fun.
Was it
having
funny
you on
enough,
here.
Anchor?
This is the funniest.
1,000%.
Yeah.
It was fun. It was fun to do. Where will they see this? Where?
Oh, no, we keep this in-house. We'll never put this on.
This isn't making you pass the HR
Just
department.
promotional for the company.
These cameras aren't even hooked up. When you steal shit from Best Buy, they don't give you the battery.
So what we'll cut this up. We'll put this on our YouTube. We'll send it to you so you can review it.
I love it.
Cut it up and get you clips for your page and everything. So
Yeah, I'll knock it out. And you guys are coming Friday night late show.
we'll be there.
Friday night.
We'll have some fun. My wife said to me, "What set are you doing?" And this is one of my other pet peeves. Like if I did a special, I would want to run the special 3 times. Because to me, what's special about stand-up is that it should be unexpected.
Yeah.
Right?
New
Now,
material.
there's something to be said for hitting a line and, hitting points. If you watch live at Sunset Strip, Pryor gets heckled in that set, and he deals with it, and it's in the show. And it feels immediate and real and genuine, and it feels like what comedy is, right? So someday, if I get enough of a following, I would want to do it live, but in an environment that was unsanitary. Because comedy shouldn't be sanitary. Not for me. Now, Seinfeld, who's one of the greatest, is a technician, and he wants it a certain way. But I saw Seinfeld at Rascals, unsanitized, and I can tell you, I can remember it like it was yesterday. I couldn't breathe during that set because you're laughing so hard. And he's always been a technician, but that's his thing. But him working out was always great. Anyway, thank you very much, guys.
Listen, I'm bringing my sandals on Friday, so you see my feet.
Oh my God. God.
Can you tell us your best Indian joke right now? You have one?
I don't have any real Indian jokes because I love the Indian culture. I'll tell you, I did a gigantic Indian party. The guy was a pharmacist. We did the basement of his house.
That's just...
Jay, I'm not kidding you. He had 30 10-top tables set up in the basement with room for a dance floor and a professional stage. I shit you not. The richest Indian I've ever encountered. All right. All the men sat on one side, the women on the other, men holding hands, women holding hands. They had a high-end caterers from Brooklyn come in. And after the show, the Indian women fed me. And they fed me with their hands. They took me everywhere and fed me with their hands. And they loved me. And they're bringing me around and different stations they were eating. And the opening act, I forget who it was, oh, it's so unsanitary. And I said, dude, India is the most populated country on the planet. I'm sure if eating from the hands was killing people, there'd be 4 Indians left.
Yeah.
That's
right.
I don't know. This sounds like they were pumping you up for a sacrifice.
Yeah, that's it.
Hey, I mean, not like I have inside information or anything.
How many gods in your religion?
All of them.
How many? Seriously.
Hundreds.
But is there a limit?
No.
So in other words, is it God in your religion just whoever, what you think of a God? Do you conjure up?
So it's a little simpler than that, right? There's this idea that energy at a certain, like level comes from one source, right? So we still believe that there's one energy source, but then that energy source shows up in our lives in different ways.
So there's one energy source, many gods.
Right. So like wind, there's a god of wind, essentially. There's a god of war, just like how the Greeks had it, right? There's different representations of that energy source. And we all believe that God's within us as well.
You believe in?
God that is within us
Right.
as well, because we're an energy source ourselves. So it's how this energy appears in our life. And then, if you've been around for as many years as Hinduism has, there's some people that build whole statues just for one specific thing and then keep going on with it.
That's amazing. We should do a podcast called Culturally Unaware.
Yeah,
where
that'd be
we
a good
sit
one.
people in a room
And learn.
and you educate people to the other culture. Like I was raised Catholic, so I know that your religion is, ridiculous.
I'm raised Catholic too,
No,
so I get it.
so that's the thing though. Like if you're raised Catholic, you believe in this trilogy, and so if you're not careful, you do end up saying, "Well, that's ridiculous."
Yeah.
And I've always said from a very young age, there can't be one God. There can't be because there's too many people.
Yeah.
Meaning, your religion is right. Your religion is right. If you had a religion, it would be right. What were you raised?
Christian.
Christian, okay. So, and when someone says Christian, you know that their religion is a pain in the ass. Like that's Jesus plus, right? I'm Christian. What denomination?
Lutheran? I don't
Okay,
know.
so you're a Lutheran.
Yeah.
Was it a question?
It's so far back. I don't even remember.
You don't go
much
to
of it.
mass.
Correct.
The Lutherans, they get together and they share, right, at the end of the mass.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to one Lutheran thing, and the pastor was time to share. And they looked at me, and I'm like, I'm uncomfortable. I don't want to share.
This is sounding like a pineapple party. That's all I know.
All right. You guys have been great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man.
Thank you for being on the
This
show.
was
Guys,
awesome.
we'll
Appreciate
catch you
it.
on the next episode. Thanks for tuning in.
See ya.